You don't have to hold it all tonight. The weight you've been carrying, the unanswered questions, the regrets, the tension in your chest, has followed you through the day. And now it lingers in your breath, your shoulders, your thoughts. The more you try to push it away, the tighter it clings. But something deep inside you already knows. Peace does not come from holding on. It comes from letting go. Here is different. This space is not about fixing or forcing. It's not about rushing to answers or making sense of everything. It's about allowing the body to soften, allowing the heart to rest, allowing yourself to simply be, just as you are, without judgment, without effort, without pressure to change. In the teachings of the Buddha, the path to liberation begins not with control, but with awareness, not with striving, but with surrender. We suffer because we cling to our identities, to our expectations, to the illusion that we can keep life exactly the way we want it. But reality doesn't work that way, and the more we resist, the more exhausted we become. Letting go doesn't mean we stop caring. It doesn't mean we give up or abandon responsibility. It means we stop trying to control what was never ours to hold. It means we learn to meet life as it is, not as we wish it to be. It's a gentle shift from grasping to opening, from resistance to trust. So tonight, you are invited to practice this shift, to step out of the current of thought, out of the tightness of fear, and into the quiet presence of this moment. You don't need to earn your rest. You don't need to prove yourself worthy of peace. You only need to remember what the Buddha pointed to again and again. Freedom begins now. Not in some future achievement, but in this breath. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, feel the invitation to release, to unclench your jaw, to lower your shoulders, to soften the grip of the mind. Let go of the perfectionism, the inner criticism, the invisible checklists that tell you you're not enough. Let go of the question, what do I still need to fix? And replace it with the gentler truth, what can I offer kindness to? Just as it is. There's a story in Zen about a man who comes to the master seeking enlightenment. He asks for the teachings, but his cup, both literally and symbolically, is already full. The master pours tea into the cup until it overflows, and the student protests. The master simply says, "How can I teach you anything if your cup is already full?" In our own lives, we are often so full of stress, thoughts, judgments, responsibilities, that there's no space left for clarity, no space left for peace. Letting go is how we begin to empty the cup. Let go of needing to be understood. Let go of the wounds you've been replaying. Let go of the image you've worked so hard to maintain. All of it has served you in some way, but it may no longer be what you need. Tonight, you can choose something different. You can choose to loosen your grip and come home to stillness. Feel your breath now, not to change it, but to feel it. Let it guide you inward. Let each exhale be a soft release. Let each inhale remind you that you are alive, and that this moment, however imperfect, is enough. There is wisdom in this stillness. There is healing in this simplicity. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't have to solve your life before you rest. You don't have to carry the past into your dreams. All you need is this breath, this space, this willingness to begin again. Let go, breathe, begin again. The myth of control. We spend much of our lives trying to keep everything in place. We make lists, we set plans, we double-check, overthink, micromanage, and constantly try to stay one step ahead. There's a quiet belief, often unspoken, that if we just try hard enough, if we do all the right things, say the right words, follow the right timing, then life will stay under control. Things won't fall apart, people won't leave, pain won't touch us, we will finally feel safe. But deep down, we all know, life doesn't work like that. Despite our best efforts, things still slip through our fingers. People change, circumstances shift, health declines, uncertainty finds us, and when it does, we often blame ourselves. We think, I should have seen this coming. I should have done more. We confuse effort with control. And when control fails, We feel powerless. The Buddha saw this clearly over 2.500 years ago. He taught that suffering arises from our attachment, especially our attachment to control. We try to grasp and hold on to what is, believing we can freeze it in time. But everything conditioned is impermanent. Nothing can stay the same. And the more we cling, the more we suffer when life inevitably changes. Letting go of control doesn't mean we stop showing up. It doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we begin to relate to life with more spaciousness, more humility, more awareness of what is truly ours to carry, and what is not. We begin to shift from, how do I make everything turn out the way I want, to, how can I meet what's happening with presence and wisdom? There's a story of a Zen master whose student came to him in distress. A storm had ruined the crops on his family's land. The student said, I did everything right. I planned for every outcome. I prayed. I worked hard. And still, it was destroyed. The master simply replied, you work with the earth, but the clouds do not answer to you. That one sentence changed the student's life. He realized how much of his inner suffering came not from the event itself, but from his expectation that he could prevent it. So many of us live like that student. We try to be good, thoughtful, prepared, and then feel betrayed when life doesn't reward us with certainty. But Buddhist wisdom invites a radical reframe. The goal is not to prevent change, but to develop the mind that can meet change with equanimity. When we believe in the myth of control, we carry a deep tension inside. The body is tight, the breath is shallow, the mind is never at rest, always scanning for the next thing to manage or fix. Even in our most peaceful moments, we can feel that undercurrent. What if something goes wrong? That tension is exhausting and unnecessary. Through mindfulness, we can begin to notice when we're gripping, when we're trying to make life behave, when we're resisting reality rather than responding to it. And with that noticing comes a possibility. The possibility of relaxing, of softening the jaw, of loosening the fists, of opening to a different way. Control is based on fear. Presence is based on trust. And trust doesn't mean we always get what we want. It means we remember that we can meet what comes with enough awareness to stay grounded, enough compassion to stay kind, and enough wisdom to let go of what isn't ours to hold. Try this now. Take a slow, deep breath. As you exhale, imagine letting go of a rope you've been pulling on, perhaps for years. A rope tied to a version of yourself you're still trying to become, or to someone else's approval, or to a past that no longer fits. Feel what it's like to release, even just a little, to stop pulling, to trust the ground beneath your feet more than the illusion in your hands. Letting go of control doesn't mean becoming passive. It means becoming available to this moment, to deeper truths, to creative responses that don't come from panic but from presence. Often, the greatest wisdom arises not when we're forcing life to move, but when we're still enough to listen. Consider the lotus flower. It doesn't push the water aside. It rises naturally, simply by growing toward the light. No struggle, no resistance, only the intelligence of surrender. What if your healing could be like that? Not forced, not perfect, but unfolding in its own way, in its own time. You may have been taught that if you let go of control, everything will fall apart. But what if that's not true? What if letting go is how things finally fall into place? What if you don't have to hold the world together in order to feel whole? Tonight, I invite you to release the myth of control, to stop measuring your worth by how well you manage life, to rest in the awareness that you were never meant to do this alone, never meant to carry it all, to trust the breath, to trust the letting go, to trust that peace does not live in control, it lives in surrender. Emotional clarity. We often think we have to fix our emotions, that if we feel anxious, we must calm down. If we feel sad, we must cheer up. If we feel anger, we must make it go away. But the truth is, emotions are not problems to solve. They are messengers. They're signals from the inner world that something in us wants to be seen, held, and understood. The teachings of mindfulness don't ask us to get rid of emotions. They ask us to get closer to them, not to be consumed by them, but to be present with them, to allow space, to observe, to feel, without judgment and without needing to immediately change what we feel. In Buddhism, emotions are seen as natural energies, temporary, shifting, impermanent like clouds across the sky. They don't define who we are. They don't stay forever, and they don't require us to act on them. When we meet emotions with presence rather than panic, something profound happens. They soften, they move, they transform. But most of us weren't taught how to sit with feelings. We were taught to suppress, to distract, to push away anything uncomfortable. So we've built habits of tightening the body, of numbing with devices or work, of pretending we're fine even when we're hurting inside. And in doing so, we've lost touch with one of our most basic human capacities, the ability to feel fully, and to stay kind to ourselves while doing it. Emotional clarity begins when we stop running, when we turn toward the feeling instead of away from it, when we pause long enough to ask, what is this emotion trying to show me? Not in an analytical way, but in a compassionate way. We become curious, not critical. We begin to notice the texture of sadness, the temperature of anger, the weight of fear, and we learn to say to ourselves, gently, it's okay to feel this. There's a powerful story in Buddhist tradition about a monk who spent years meditating in a remote forest. One day, during deep practice, a surge of rage rose within him, so intense it shocked him. He had thought he was beyond anger. For a moment, he felt ashamed, believing he had failed, but then he remembered his teacher's words. No emotion is your enemy. Anger, too, is a teacher, so he stayed with it. He breathed through it. He watched it rise, peak, and pass away like a wave on the ocean. And in that stillness, he discovered something deeper than calm. He discovered clarity. That clarity is not about being free from emotion. It's about being free in the midst of emotion. Free to feel, without being swept away. Free to breathe, even when the heart is pounding. Free to choose compassion over reaction. In daily life, this kind of clarity can change everything. When we don't immediately react to sadness, we make room for tenderness. When we don't suppress fear, we often find the vulnerable truth beneath it. When we pause before speaking from anger, we give ourselves the chance to speak from wisdom instead. Clarity doesn't mean cold detachment. It means warm awareness. It means staying grounded in the breath while allowing emotion to move through us like weather through an open sky. It means trusting that we are spacious enough to hold discomfort, wise enough to listen, and kind enough to not judge what arises. The breath is a powerful ally in this process, not because it fixes emotion, but because it anchors us. When we feel overwhelmed, simply noticing the inhale and the exhale gives us a place to return. It reminds us, I am not this emotion. I am the one aware of it. And from that awareness, we can respond instead of react. Try it now. Bring to mind a recent moment when you felt emotionally charged. Maybe it was disappointment, jealousy, shame, or hurt. Notice how your body reacts, even just remembering it. Now, take a slow breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Let the breath be gentle and steady. Ask yourself, what would it be like to sit with this feeling, without needing to fix it? Let the answer arise from stillness, not from the mind's urgency. Emotional clarity also means recognizing when we've taken on emotions that don't belong to us. Empaths and sensitive beings often absorb the energy of others. We mistake their sadness for ours, their tension for our responsibility. But one of the greatest acts of mindfulness is learning where your feelings end and another's begin. You can be present without absorbing. You can care without carrying. Tonight, if your heart feels heavy, don't rush to empty it. Sit with it. Listen. Maybe it's not asking for a solution. Maybe it's asking for your presence. Maybe it wants to be witnessed, not fixed. Remember, you don't need to be at peace to be worthy of peace. You don't need to be calm to deserve rest. You only need to be willing to meet yourself as you are, with gentle honesty. Let go of the belief that feeling deeply is weakness. Let go of the urge to numb or distract. Let go of the shame that says, I should be over this by now. Healing moves at the pace of love, not pressure, and love begins with your willingness to feel. Tonight, let your emotions come as guests. Invite them in, offer them tea, sit beside them in silence. And when they're ready, they will leave, not because you pushed them out, but because you no longer needed to hold them so tightly. This is emotional clarity. This is the wisdom of feeling. The beauty of impermanence. Everything changes. We know this in theory. We see the seasons turn, the leaves fall, the tides shift. Yet when it comes to the people we love, the roles we play, the lives we've built, we often resist this truth. We want the good moments to last forever. We want the painful ones to disappear instantly. But life, in its quiet honesty, doesn't promise permanence. It only promises change. The Buddha called this anicca, the truth of impermanence. It is one of the three marks of existence, alongside suffering and non-self. To see deeply into impermanence is not to become detached or hopeless. It is to awaken to the reality that everything is always in flux. And within that flow, there is immense freedom. Most of our suffering comes from resisting impermanence. We cling to what is fading. We try to freeze time, hold on to identities, preserve relationships, capture moments, and when those things slip away, as they always do, we grieve, not just the loss itself, but the illusion that it should have lasted longer. But what if impermanence wasn't our enemy? What if it was our teacher? There's a story in Zen about a monk who carried a cracked cup wherever he went. People would ask him, "Why do you keep that broken thing?" He would smile and reply, "Because when I drink from it, I remember that everything is already on its way to breaking. And that makes every sip more precious." He didn't fear the crack. He found beauty in it. The cup reminded him to be present, to love gently, and to let go gracefully. Impermanence teaches us to cherish what we have while we have it. Not by clinging harder, but by showing up more fully. When we remember that nothing lasts forever, we start paying attention. We speak more kindly. We forgive more quickly. We savor the ordinary, the morning light, the sound of laughter, the quiet moments with someone we love. Impermanence makes the mundane sacred. It also teaches us that pain won't last forever. Emotions rise and fall. Circumstances shift. What feels unbearable today may soften tomorrow. Grief changes shape. Wounds close. And even when scars remain, they remind us that healing is possible. In this way, impermanence is not just a truth, it's a form of mercy. It means that nothing is fixed, that we are not frozen in our worst mistakes, that every moment offers a chance to begin again. We often fear change because we associate it with loss. But change is also growth. It is evolution. It is the natural unfolding of life. Even the lotus must rise from the mud. Even the caterpillar must dissolve to become the butterfly. We cannot hold on to the cocoon and fly at the same time. In the practice of meditation, we begin to see impermanence directly. We sit and watch the breath, how it comes and goes. Without clinging, we notice sounds arise and fade. Thoughts appear and dissolve. Sensations shift moment by moment. Nothing stays the same, not even for a second. And yet, when we stop fighting that truth, a deep peace begins to settle. That peace doesn't come from controlling the flow of life. It comes from flowing with it. From accepting what is here now, knowing it won't stay. From opening our hands instead of tightening our grip. Sometimes we grieve not only what we've lost, but what never came to be. The future we imagined. The person we hoped someone would become. The version of ourselves we thought we'd achieve by now. But even these are impermanent. And sometimes, letting go of what never was is the most healing thing we can do. Look around you. Everything is changing. The sky, the trees, the people you pass, the cells in your body, the thoughts in your mind. Change is not the exception. It's the rule. And within that rule is a quiet kind of beauty. The chance to begin again. Again and again. Let go of the belief that permanence is security. Let go of the craving for things to stay exactly as they are. Let go of the grief that says, it should have lasted. Nothing in nature resists change, and neither must we. Tonight, if you are grieving something that has ended, know that your sorrow is not wrong. It's a sign of love. But also know this: you can hold that love without holding the past. You can honor what was while stepping into what is. Impermanence is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. And when we embrace it, we stop wasting energy on trying to keep things the same, and we begin to participate more fully in the living, breathing miracle of now. So breathe. Feel the breath come. Feel it go. Feel the heart rise and fall with each inhale. Each exhale. Let yourself be held by the rhythm of change, not threatened by it. The beauty of impermanence is not that things fade, but that they are real while they're here. And that, if we're awake, we won't miss them. We'll be present. We'll love deeply. And when it's time, we'll let go, not in bitterness, but in gratitude. This is how we live with open hands. This is how we walk through life without armoring our hearts. This is how we learn to meet the flow with grace. Let go, breathe, begin again. Unhooking from the past. The past has a way of clinging. Even when we think we've moved on, it lingers in our thoughts, in our bodies, in the quiet assumptions we carry about who we are. A single memory can replay like a film loop. A conversation from years ago can still trigger the same tightness in the chest. Regret can become a low hum beneath our daily actions, shaping how we speak, how we protect ourselves, how we love. We carry the past not just in memory, but in identity. We say, I'm the one who failed at love, or I'm the person who wasn't enough, or that moment broke me. These stories stick, and when we believe them, we begin to live as if they are absolute truths rather than echoes of something long gone. But the Buddha taught that identity is not fixed. It is not something solid we must defend or drag behind us. It is fluid, like the river, always changing. Who you were is not who you have to be. What happened is not the same as what's happening now. And the mind that clings to the past is often the one that suffers the most. To unhook from the past doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending nothing ever hurt you. It means choosing to loosen your grip on stories that no longer serve. It means allowing space for something new to emerge, not despite your history, but alongside it. There's a story of a monk who carried a heavy sack filled with stones. When asked why, he said, "These represent all the things I've done wrong. I carry them to remind myself to be humble." But over time, the weight slowed him down. It made his steps small, his posture bent. Finally, an elder approached him and asked, "Do you think humility requires self-punishment?" The monk was silent. The elder continued, "Sometimes, honoring the past means putting it down, so that you can finally walk upright." Many of us walk through life like that monk, carrying guilt, carrying shame, believing that if we let it go, we're letting ourselves off too easily. But clinging to pain does not purify us. It only keeps us tethered to suffering. Mindfulness invites us to meet the past with clarity and compassion, to see it, name it, feel it, and then release the parts that keep us stuck. This isn't repression, it's transformation. It's the difference between replaying a wound and letting it integrate into the wholeness of who we are. Sometimes, what binds us to the past is not guilt, but longing, the wish to return to how things were, a relationship that ended before we were ready, a version of ourselves we miss, a time when life felt simpler, lighter. And yet, even nostalgia can be a chain when we can't stop looking back. Healing means facing backward long enough to understand, but then turning toward the present. The only place anything new can happen is here. The only moment we can breathe in is this one. Try this practice. Bring to mind something from your past that still tugs at your heart. Notice how your body reacts. Notice any emotions that arise. Now gently say to yourself, "This happened, it hurt, and I am still here." Breathe into the space between what was and what is. Feel the ground beneath you, anchoring you in the now. The past does not need to disappear for you to be free. It only needs to take its rightful place, not as a dictator of your future, but as a chapter in your story, a part of your becoming, not the whole of your being. In Buddhist psychology, there's a concept called dukkha, suffering or unsatisfactoriness. Much of our dukkha comes from resisting the past, wishing it had been different. But resistance keeps us stuck in a loop. Acceptance, on the other hand, creates spaciousness. It opens a door to peace. Acceptance doesn't mean saying it was okay. It means saying, it happened, I see it, and I'm no longer letting it define who I am. When we can say that with honesty and softness, something shifts. We begin to reclaim energy we didn't even know we had lost. Sometimes we're waiting for closure, an apology, a moment that makes everything make sense. But not all stories close the way we want them to. And that's okay. Closure isn't always something others give us. It's something we choose. A silent decision to stop digging up what won't grow. Let go of the belief that holding on protects you. Let go of the idea that you must remember in order to honor. Let go of the question, why did this happen to me? And replace it with, what can I learn to carry forward with grace? You are not the same person you were when that event occurred. You have changed, grown, softened, strengthened. You are not the version of you who was wounded. You are the version who is now aware of the wound, and who can tend to it with wisdom. Tonight, if the past rises up, don't push it away. Meet it gently. Place a hand over your heart if it helps. Remind yourself, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to do with it now. Unhooking from the past doesn't mean losing your history. It means letting your story breathe. It means giving yourself permission to evolve. It means making peace with what you cannot change, and choosing to root yourself in what you can. This breath, this step, this sacred moment of now. Let go, breathe, begin again. The space between thoughts. The mind never seems to stop. Even in stillness, it moves, spinning stories, predicting futures, replaying pasts. One thought leads to another, then another, until we forget where it started or what brought us here. It can feel like a river we're swept into, pulled by a current we didn't choose, unable to find the shore. And yet, the teachings of the Buddha remind us, we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness behind them. Thoughts come and go, like clouds across the sky. Some are light, some heavy, some pass quickly, others linger, but none of them are permanent, and none of them are the whole truth. In meditation, we begin to notice something extraordinary between one thought and the next. There is a pause, a gap, a space that is still, open, silent. That space is not empty. It is alive with presence. It is the space where peace lives. Most of the time, we don't notice it. Our attention is so tightly woven into the content of thought that we miss the space around it. But when we slow down, when we stop trying to chase or push away our thinking, we begin to glimpse what's always been there, the quiet between the noise. That quiet is not just in meditation. It's here, now, in every breath. It's in the pause before you speak, in the moment your eyes soften, in the heartbeat you feel when everything else falls away. You don't have to escape your thoughts to find peace. You only have to stop clinging to them. There's a teaching from Zen that says, don't follow the thought. Don't fight the thought. Just notice it, then return to the breath. Simple, but profoundly liberating, because each time we return to the breath, we return to the present. And in the present, thought loses its power to control us. Think of thoughts like trains passing through a station. You can stand on the platform and watch them come and go. Some of them may look tempting. You want to jump on and ride them for hours. Some may scare you, but you don't have to board. You can simply notice and stay grounded where you are. This is the gift of mindfulness, not to empty the mind, but to anchor it, to create space between stimulus and response, to give yourself just enough room to breathe before reacting. That space is where freedom begins. In daily life, we often mistake thinking for solving. We believe that if we just think hard enough, we'll find peace. But peace doesn't arise from more thinking. It arises from less grasping. The mind can be a useful tool, but it's not a great place to live full time. And it's certainly not where the deepest truths are found. When the mind becomes too loud, try returning to the body. Feel your feet on the floor, the air on your skin, the breath rising and falling in your belly. The body lives in the present. It does not replay the past or rehearse the future. It only knows this moment. And that is enough. There is a kind of healing that comes not from figuring things out, but from sitting quietly with what is, from resting in the space where no solution is needed, where you don't have to be anything but here. You might find, in those moments, that clarity arises, not because you chased it, but because you finally got quiet enough to receive it. Insight blooms not from striving, but from stillness. The space between thoughts is not just a break from mental activity. It's a doorway, a threshold into a different way of being, a place where the self relaxes, the nervous system unwinds, and the soul breathes more freely. Some call it presence, some call it awareness, some call it God, but whatever name you give it, you'll recognize it by the feeling: calm, clear, timeless. Let go of the need to control your mind. Let go of the belief that every thought deserves your attention. Let go of the idea that stillness is something you have to earn. It is already here, beneath the noise, beneath the striving, beneath the endless mental commentary. Tonight, as thoughts rise, because they will, just notice them, gently, without judgment, and then return to your breath, again and again, not to push the thoughts away, but to rest in something deeper than them. Breathe in, and notice the pause. Breathe out, and feel the space. This space is sacred. This space is home. You don't have to think your way to peace. You can simply stop and feel your way there. One breath at a time. One moment at a time. And in that space between thoughts, you'll remember, you are not your fears. You are not your plans. You are not your past. You are the one who watches. The one who breathes. The one who lets go. Let go. Breathe. Begin again. Loving without holding. Love, when misunderstood, becomes attachment. We want to keep the people we love close. We want to protect them, guide them, maybe even save them from pain. We want them to stay the same, to stay near, to stay ours. But love is not possession. And true love, as the Buddha taught, includes freedom. We often confuse love with control. We think, if I care enough, I must intervene. If I love them, I must fix them. If they don't respond the way I hope, something's wrong. But this kind of love carries tension. It binds, rather than liberates. It places conditions where there should be space. Buddhism speaks of metta, loving kindness, a love that asks for nothing in return. A love that offers warmth without attachment. It's the kind of love that says, I see you as you are, and I wish for your happiness, even if that happiness is not with me. Even if your path leads you away from mine. This is not cold or detached. In fact, it's deeply tender. It's love rooted in wisdom. A love that sees the changing nature of all things, and chooses to open rather than cling. A love that supports rather than controls. There's a story of a parent and child walking along a river. The child begins to panic, fearing the current. The parent gently holds the child's hand, saying, I cannot stop the river, but I will walk with you through it. That's love, not changing the path, but offering presence along the way. So many of us were raised with conditional love, love that said, be a certain way, and I'll stay, make me feel needed, and I'll care. Don't disappoint me, or I'll pull away. We learn to shape ourselves to fit others' expectations. And sometimes, we repeated that pattern, loving others with strings attached. But healing means learning a new kind of love. One that doesn't grasp, one that trusts, one that gives without losing the self. To love someone is not to merge identities. It's to honor their path, even when it doesn't align with yours. We see this most clearly in the practice of letting go, letting someone grow, letting them make their own mistakes, letting them move through grief or confusion without rushing to fix it. Love doesn't mean carrying someone else's pain. It means being present with them in it, without needing to take it away. Try this reflection. Think of someone you love deeply. Bring them to mind now. Notice what arises in your body. Is there tightness, a desire to help, a longing to hold on? Breathe into that. Ask yourself, can I love them without needing to control their journey? You may find that in letting go, love becomes lighter, clearer, more real. Non-attachment in love doesn't mean indifference. It means presence without fear. It means caring enough to stay close, but wise enough not to interfere with life's unfolding. It means knowing that pain is not failure, and that growth sometimes requires struggle. This is especially true in relationships where you long to help someone heal. A partner facing depression, a friend repeating self-destructive patterns, a family member caught in anger or fear. It's easy to think, if I love them enough, I can pull them out. But the truth is, love cannot force transformation. It can only hold space for it. Imagine your love like a garden. You can water it, tend to it, remove weeds, but you cannot make the seed sprout. That is nature's work. That is timing's work. Your task is presence, compassion, patience. Sometimes, the most powerful act of love is stepping back, saying, I'm here, I care, but I trust you to walk your path. That trust is not passivity, it's respect. It's a recognition that each being has their own karmic unfolding, their own timing, their own lessons to learn. And what about when love ends? When someone leaves, or we choose to walk away? Grief is inevitable, but even in that grief, we can love without holding. We can bless the time shared, mourn what was, and release what no longer is. We can say, I loved you deeply, and I still wish you peace. Loving without holding is also a practice toward ourselves. So often, we attach to an old version of who we were, the person we think we should still be. We shame ourselves for changing, for needing rest, for not being who we were 10 years ago. But can you love yourself now, in this exact form? Not for who you might become, but for who you are, wounded, wise, imperfect, alive. Tonight, if love feels heavy, ask, am I holding too tightly? If it feels like pressure, ask, what am I afraid of losing? If it feels like control, ask, can I return to trust? Let your love breathe, let it soften, let it be big enough to include change. To love without holding is to love with open hands. Open hands don't drop love, they offer it, freely, gently, unafraid of what comes next. Let go of the belief that love must look a certain way. Let go of the script that says love means always being needed. Let go of the fear that if you loosen your grip, it will all fall apart. Sometimes, loosening is what allows love to deepen. Let your love be a field, not a cage. Let it be a river, not a dam. Let it be the light that stays, even when forms change. Let go, breathe, begin again. Releasing the need for closure. We crave closure, a final word, a clean ending, something that wraps up the pain with a tidy bow and tells us, it's over now, you can move on. We search for it in conversations, in apologies, in explanations. We want the missing pieces to fit. We want the story to make sense. But life doesn't always offer closure in the way we hope. Some people leave without a goodbye. Some questions never get answered. Some endings come without clarity, without fairness, without a moment to say, wait, I wasn't ready. And so we wait. We wait for the moment that makes it all click. We wait for someone else to acknowledge what happened. We wait to feel done. But the longer we wait, the more we tether ourselves to what's already gone. We put our healing on hold, hoping that someday, someone or something will come and make it all feel complete. The Buddha taught that clinging creates suffering, and our need for closure is often a subtle form of clinging. clinging to meaning, clinging to understanding, clinging to a version of the past that we think we can still fix. If only we had the right ending. But what if closure is not something that happens to us? What if it's something we choose? There's a story of a woman who carried a letter in her bag for years, written to someone who had hurt her deeply. She never sent it. She rewrote it many times, trying to find the perfect words that would make him understand. But one day, she sat beside a river and simply let the paper go. She didn't get an apology. She didn't get resolution. But she got something better, release. A quiet knowing that she didn't need to be understood to be at peace. Closure is not always a conversation. Sometimes, it's a breath, a private moment where you say to yourself, "This happened. I may never fully understand it, and I choose to stop holding it." This kind of closure is not loud or dramatic. It doesn't always involve the other person. It doesn't fix the pain, but it opens the hand that's been clenched for too long. It says, "I'm ready to live forward, not backward." One of the reasons we long for closure is because we believe it will bring justice. That if we could just make sense of what happened, the hurt would go away. But the truth is, some wounds don't make sense. Some endings are unjust. Some stories will never resolve in a satisfying way. And peace, in those cases, is not found in justice, but in acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean approval. It means acknowledging what is, without resistance. It means saying, "This happened, and I will not let it define the rest of my life." It's a quiet reclaiming of your power. Sometimes, closure looks like letting the question remain unanswered. Sometimes, it looks like stopping mid-sentence and walking away. Sometimes, it's sitting in silence and deciding, "I don't need this to be finished in order to move on." In meditation, we learn to sit with what is incomplete. We notice the urge to fix, to explain, to resolve, and we practice staying with the discomfort, staying with the open loops, staying with the breath, even when the mind screams for answers. And in time, we find that the need for closure softens. It loses its grip. We stop needing things to be finished, and instead, we begin to feel finished within ourselves. Try this now. Think of something in your life that still feels open. An ending that never truly ended. A conversation left unfinished. A goodbye that never came. Feel the ache of that incompletion. Now, take a breath and ask gently, "Can I live with this, even if it never resolves?" You may be surprised by the answer. Because sometimes, freedom doesn't come from getting what we want. It comes from no longer needing it. Let go of the belief that closure will fix everything. Let go of the story that says your healing depends on someone else. Let go of the pressure to find meaning in every pain. Some things just happen. Some things remain open. And that's okay. You don't have to understand the ending to begin again. You don't have to close every door to walk through a new one. You don't have to wait for peace to be delivered. You can choose it now. Closure isn't always a finish line. Sometimes, it's a surrender. Sometimes, it's the moment you stop looking back and start walking forward, even without all the answers. Tonight, if something in you still feels unresolved, offer it your presence, offer it your breath. You don't need to wrestle with it. You don't need to conquer it. You only need to sit beside it and say, "I see you, I accept you, and I no longer need you to be different." And in that moment, something will shift, not because you forced it, but because you finally gave it the space to dissolve. Some endings will never be perfect, but that doesn't mean your peace must wait. Breathe, soften, trust, let go, breathe, begin again. Becoming the stillness. We often think of stillness as something we must find, a place to reach, a reward for doing enough, meditating long enough, or fixing ourselves thoroughly enough. We imagine stillness as an escape from chaos, a quiet cabin away from the noise of the world, or a rare moment when nothing disturbs us. But the stillness the Buddha spoke of is not somewhere else. It's not far away. It's not conditional. True stillness isn't about silencing the world. It's about discovering a silence within us that's always been there. A silence that doesn't depend on circumstances. A peace that is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of awareness. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "There is no path to peace. Peace is the path." This is the heart of becoming still. Not chasing stillness as a destination, but embodying it as a way of being. Not waiting for life to calm down, but learning to be calm within the life you already have. We live in a world that moves fast. Notifications, deadlines, conversations layered over other conversations. We're taught to respond, to react, to keep up. Even when we sit still physically, the mind keeps running, planning, remembering, analyzing, worrying, and in the middle of all that movement, we forget that we can stop. We forget that we are allowed to pause. Stillness begins with permission, the simple, radical act of saying, "I don't have to chase this moment. I can let it come to me." It begins with breath, with feeling your body, with sensing the weight of your feet on the floor, the rhythm of your inhale and exhale. It begins with being where you are. There's a story of a monk who was asked how he remained peaceful even in the middle of chaos. He smiled and said, "Because I don't confuse the water with the moon." The students were puzzled. He explained, "Even when the water is stirred, the moon above it remains unmoved. My thoughts are like the water. My awareness is the moon." Becoming the stillness means realizing that you are the sky, not the storm. That thoughts and emotions may come like weather, loud, shifting, unpredictable, but the space that holds them is steady, clear, vast, unchanging. This doesn't mean we become passive or disengaged. On the contrary, the more anchored we are in stillness, the more skillfully we can respond to life. Stillness sharpens perception. It softens reactivity. It creates the spaciousness needed for wise action. When you react from agitation, your vision is narrow, your breath is shallow, your choices are driven by fear. But when you respond from stillness, you move from clarity, not urgency. You speak with presence, not panic. You act with compassion, not defense. Stillness isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of everything real. Creativity, intuition, insight, deep love, all arise from silence, from the fertile space within, untouched by noise. Try this now. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the breath without changing it. Notice the sounds around you, not as distractions, but as part of the moment. Let them come and go. Notice thoughts, too. Let them drift without following. And then, gently ask, "What is here?" When I stop doing, the answer will not come in words, but in a felt sense. A presence, a knowing. Stillness is not something you achieve. It's something you remember. It's already in you, beneath the habits of tension, beneath the layers of thought, beneath the striving to be somewhere else. Stillness is the truth of your being. In moments of crisis, we often forget this. We reach for control, for answers, for escape. But what if the medicine you seek is not more doing, but more resting in being? What if sitting quietly, breathing gently, feeling your feet touch the earth, is exactly what your nervous system needs? The world may continue to spin. The noise may not stop, but your relationship to it can change. You can learn to remain still even as things move around you. You can learn to listen more deeply, to speak less reactively, to hold space rather than fill it. Let go of the belief that you must wait for perfect conditions. Let go of the idea that peace lives in some future time when everything is calm. Let go of the story that says you're too busy, too broken, too restless to know stillness. Stillness is here, in this breath, in this pause, in the space between thoughts, in the softening of your shoulders, in the quiet yes you whisper to yourself when no one else is listening. You don't need to go somewhere else to find it. You are not separate from it. You are it. So let the world spin. Let your to-do list rest. Let the story go quiet for a while, and become what you already are, awake, present, still. You are the stillness beneath the storm, the silence behind the sound, the space within which everything else moves. Let that be enough for now. Let go, breathe, begin again. The Dharma of Surrender. The word surrender often carries a sense of defeat. We imagine white flags, lost battles, giving up too soon. We're taught that surrender means weakness, passivity, or failure, so we resist it. We push harder. We try longer. We tell ourselves that if we just don't let go, maybe life will finally bend our way. But in the light of the Dharma, surrender doesn't mean collapse. It doesn't mean resignation or hopelessness. It means clarity. It means seeing things as they truly are and responding with wisdom instead of resistance. It means releasing the illusion of control and returning to the truth of flow. Surrender is not the end of effort. It is the end of struggle. It's the shift from, I must force this, to, I will meet this. From, I must win, to, I will witness. From, I demand this be different, to, I accept what is, and choose how I respond. The Buddha did not teach us to fight reality. He taught us to awaken within it, to open our eyes to impermanence, to suffering, to the nature of all things, and to find peace not in conquering the world, but in seeing through the delusions that make us suffer. True surrender begins with trust, not blind trust in fate or external forces, but trust in the unfolding of life. Trust that there is intelligence in change, that there is meaning even when we cannot see it yet, that there is peace available, not because things are easy, but because we no longer resist them. There's a story of a man caught in a river current. He fights, flails, tries to swim against it, but the water is too strong. Exhausted, he begins to sink. Then, just before going under, he remembers something his teacher once said, when the river is stronger than you, float. So he stops fighting. He lets go, and the river carries him, not to destruction, but to shore. So often, we are that man, caught in the current of grief, of uncertainty, of things not going as planned. And the more we resist, the more we exhaust ourselves. But when we surrender, not give up, but give in to what is, we often find that the current knows where to take us. Surrender is not about accepting injustice or allowing harm. It is not about becoming passive. It's about meeting life with openness and responding from a place of presence rather than panic. It's about letting go of the fight with what's unchangeable, so we can put our energy where it truly matters. In the practice of meditation, surrender shows up as non-striving. We don't sit to achieve something. We don't force the mind into silence. We sit, breathe, observe, allow, and in that allowing, something softens. The mind no longer needs to be controlled. The breath no longer needs to be manipulated. Awareness simply watches. That is surrender. Spacious, gentle, alive. In relationships, surrender means releasing expectations. It means loving without demanding change. It means holding presence for others, even when their journey looks different from ours. It means trusting that we don't have to fix, rescue, or rearrange other people's paths. In healing, surrender means honoring the pace of your body, your heart, your soul. It means letting go of the urgency to be better, and instead listening deeply to what is needed now. Sometimes, healing doesn't come when we try harder, but when we finally stop trying so hard. Try this. Bring to mind something in your life right now that you're struggling to change. Notice the effort, the tension, the pushing. Now ask yourself, what if I stopped fighting this moment? What if I softened into it instead? Breathe. Feel the shift. Not giving up, but giving space. Surrender invites us to live with less resistance and more receptivity. To trust that life is not something we must conquer, but something we can participate in with wisdom. It means bowing not in defeat, but in reverence to the mystery, the movement, the moment. Let go of the belief that you must force life to go your way. Let go of the fear that surrender means you failed. Let go of the inner voice that says, if I let go, I'll lose everything. Sometimes, letting go is how we gain clarity. Sometimes, surrender is how we come home. The Dharma teaches that the more we resist reality, the more we suffer. But when we surrender, not out of fear, but out of understanding, we touch something deeper than relief. We touch freedom. Tonight, If you feel tired from the weight of trying to figure everything out, trying to hold it all together, trying to make life work exactly as you planned, pause. Breathe. Remember that you're not here to control the river. You're here to trust the current. Surrender is not an act of defeat. It's an act of wisdom. It's an act of coming into harmony with life, rather than fighting it at every turn. It's how we rest in truth, rather than argue with it. So rest now. Rest in the knowing that you don't have to hold it all. You don't have to understand everything. You don't have to fix the moment. You can just be in it. And that is enough. Let go. Breathe. Begin again. Opening the hands. We spend so much of life with closed hands, grasping, protecting, holding on, sometimes to love, sometimes to fear, often to both. We clench around our desires. We hold tightly to our plans, our identities, our relationships, our pain. Somewhere along the way, we learn that closing is how we stay safe, that to loosen our grip is to risk losing everything. But what if real safety is not found in holding on, but in opening? There's a quiet truth the Dharma teaches us, that freedom begins not when we add more, but when we release, not when we secure everything, but when we stop clutching at what was never ours to keep. The hands that cling are often the ones that suffer most, but the hands that open, those are the ones that receive peace. Imagine for a moment your life as a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze it, the more it slips through your fingers. But if you open your palm, it simply rests there, unforced, undisturbed, held not by tension, but by stillness. Opening the hands is not a physical act, it's an internal movement. A shift in relationship, a softening of the urge to control. It's saying, I don't need to grip this so tightly in order to be okay. It's trusting that what's meant to stay will stay, and what's meant to leave will leave. No matter how hard we try to hold it. There's a story of a Zen teacher who offered a student a closed fist. "What is this?" he asked. The student replied, "A teaching." The teacher smiled and slowly opened his hand, revealing nothing. "Exactly," he said. "When the hand is closed, it cannot give or receive. But when it opens, everything is possible, even emptiness." We often fear that opening means loss, that if we stop holding on, we'll end up with nothing. But in reality, what we open to is far more spacious than what we cling to. Open hands can hold sunlight, wind, a breath, the moment. Closed hands only hold themselves. Opening also means allowing life to come as it is, allowing emotions to rise and fall, allowing people to be who they are, not who we want them to be. It means saying, I trust this moment to unfold, even if I don't understand it yet. This is one of the most courageous acts of practice, to meet life with open hands and an undefended heart. To stop bracing against experience, to stop trying to control the uncontrollable, to simply be present, and let life touch you without breaking you. Try this now. Imagine something you've been clinging to, perhaps an outcome, a person, a belief, a story. Feel how it lives in your body. Where is the tension, the tightness, the resistance? Now, gently breathe into that place. And as you exhale, imagine your hands unclenching, just a little. Feel the release, feel the space. What happens when you let go? Not out of defeat, but out of trust. Not to abandon, but to return. Return to yourself, to now, to the part of you that knows how to rest in not knowing. Opening doesn't mean we don't care. It means we care without control. It means we show up without expectation. It means we love without possession. We grieve without being consumed. We hope without being rigid. Open hands allow grief to move. They allow forgiveness to flow. They allow joy to enter. Because they're no longer full of things that no longer serve. They let the moment breathe. Sometimes, people will leave. Dreams will shift. Plans will fall apart. Sometimes, no amount of grasping can stop the change. And when that happens, our choice is simple. We can keep holding and suffer, or we can open and be free. The open hand is not empty, it's ready. Ready to receive, to release, to rest, to begin again. It holds nothing, yet it holds the whole of this moment. And in that moment, there is peace. Let go of the belief that holding on proves your strength. Let go of the fear that release means loss. Let go of the idea that opening is weakness. It takes far more strength to open than to clench. Open your hands to the uncertainty. Open to the silence. Open to the beauty you forgot to see while you were too busy protecting what you feared to lose. Tonight, if your heart feels tight, your thoughts crowded, your spirit weary, imagine your hands unclenching. Feel the breath move through the spaces you've made. Let life enter again, gently, quietly, fully. What if everything you've been searching for is not something to hold, but something to make space for? Let yourself open. Let yourself receive. Let yourself return. Let go. Breathe. Begin again. Closing the journey. Opening the heart. As we come to the end of this quiet journey together, take one last breath with intention. Feel how it rises, not to achieve, not to become, but simply to be here. And feel how it falls, without effort, without clinging, without needing anything more. You've just walked through 10 gates of insight, each one asking you not to fix, but to feel, not to control, but to release, not to chase answers, but to come home to presence. Maybe something inside you softened. Maybe something opened. Maybe, for the first time in a while, you remembered that you are allowed to rest. In a world that constantly tells us to become more, the Dharma gently reminds us that we are already enough. That letting go is not losing, it's making space. That stillness is not absence, it's depth. That surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. Letting go is not a one-time act, it's a rhythm, a practice, a way of being in the world without being tangled by it. And you now carry that rhythm within you. Every breath is a doorway back, every moment, a chance to release and begin again. If tonight brought you even a drop of peace, know that this peace is always within reach. You don't need the perfect day, the perfect body, or the perfect mind to access it. You only need this breath, this awareness, this willingness to be here, awake, soft, open. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply human, learning how to meet life with tenderness and truth. That, in itself, is sacred. And if, as this video ends, a part of you wants to stay connected to this kind of presence, know that you're always welcome here. This space was made for you, for your rest, your reflection, your return. We share a new video like this every day. Gentle teachings, mindful stories, healing meditations, all crafted to help you unwind, breathe deeper, and come home to what matters. If you'd like to return, you can subscribe, or simply visit again when your heart needs stillness. There's no pressure, just presence. And if this journey has touched you, feel free to leave a comment or share it with someone who may need a soft place to land. Your voice helps this space grow. Your presence gives it life. But even if you never press another button, this moment is already complete. You came here, you breathed, you listened, you let go. That's enough. So now, let the silence deepen, let the breath slow, let the day dissolve behind you like mist. There is nothing more to do, nothing to fix, nothing to prove, nothing to hold. Only this: let go, breathe, begin again.